Hi, and welcome back to another daily dose of anime recaps. In this episode, we shall be covering the manga Return of the Shattered Constellation. From an ordinary human on Earth to becoming a god, it's an unbelievable journey. But the main character, Lee Chang Seon, went even further, destroying over 1 million gods on the planet Arcadia. As a result, he turned into a malevolent deity and received a death sentence by hanging. Just when it seemed like everything was over, he encountered Thanatos, the king of the underworld. Through rebirth as Lee Chang Seon, he embarked on a quest to defeat renegade gods and seek revenge against those who condemned him to hell. Are you ready to experience it all? Join us in the thrilling story of Return of the Shattered Constellation and uncover its captivating tale. And if you like this video, don't forget to destroy the like, subscribe button and comment below to let us know how much you liked it. The protagonist woke up and realized he was lying in a field of wildflowers. He was sure that he was dead. To be precise, he dissipated since death is not a word that correlates to creations. A system appeared. He tried to access the system, but it didn't work. The system did not function smoothly here, so he was advised to inquire about the precise circumstances to the manager of this area. Suddenly, two strangers approached with a huge unfurled scroll. The long-haired older brother spotted him and asked, "The Twilight of the Gods? Lee Chang Seon, correct?" Ignoring the question, Chang Seon immediately attacked the man. The opponent was surprised, but managed to dodge and counter with a sword strike. Fearless, Chang Seon used his fist to block the sword, splashing water on both of them. He coolly advanced toward the long-haired man, exhibiting a dangerous demeanor. Suddenly, numerous yellow cubic blocks called Divine Suppression Steel appeared out of nowhere, swiftly wrapping around his hands and feet and binding him securely. These ropes were specifically designed to restrain gods and drain them of their power. Chang Seon felt helpless and could only grit his teeth as he asked about the person behind these extraordinary abilities. The stranger, now wearing a smile, introduced himself as Yule, the top reaper of the underworld. Yule escorted Chang Seon onto a ship, sharing a story along the way. It turned out that Chang Seon was born on Earth, but then mysteriously vanished from the record of life and death. After an extensive search, it was discovered that he had escaped to a planet called Arcadia and ascended to become a god, wreaking havoc by slaughtering over 1 million deities. Yule and others had gone through great efforts to capture and bring him back, following the orders of the king of the underworld, Thanatos. Now, they stood before the domain ruled by Thanatos, a massive fortress echoing with the tormented cries of fallen souls burdened by their sins. Yule led Chang Seon to a grand gate and announced to the person inside that the Twilight of the Gods had been brought. Inside, Thanatos sat on a golden throne. The conversation began with the deity accusing Chang Seon of crazily swearing at his gaming teammates on June 21, 2024. Yule said that according to the rules of the underworld, Chang Seon will be punished by getting his tongue ripped out for 15 days in the hell of tongue ripping. Thanatos then listed additional charges, such as killing an ant on the way to school, blaming the dog for drawing a map on the blanket, and the heaviest charge of all being single. Moving on to the main issue, there were some gods that had broken their oaths and had reached out for humans. Thanatos asked Chang Seon to go to the mundane world in Thanatos' stead and make them into vassals. Chang Seon asked straight away, "You will reincarnate me?" Thanatos said, to be precise, "I'm simply returning you to the place you're supposed to be." He waved his robe, revealing another dimension with countless planets, including Earth, right in front of Chang Seon. Chang Seon couldn't help but say, "Well, it is my home." The Earth image suddenly zoomed in, revealing a young man holding a bottle of wine as he crossed the street. He looked just like Chang Seon, leaving him confused. Thanatos recognized Chang Seon's potential as a hunter and offered him a job. When the job was done, Thanatos would release the chains on him and give him a new life. Thanatos then gave Chang Seon some authority and said the oath itself is the burden. You can call it Monarch's bounty. So are you gonna do it? Chang Seon smiled and said, if you're going to give me that, then there is no reason I should refuse. With the deal successfully sealed, Thanatos enthusiastically announced, from now on, the reincarnation, regression, will start. Get ready to open all the gates of the Gate of Rebirth. Yul quickly brought Chang Seon back, and along the way, he kept reminding that Chang Seon would be reincarnated, not as a god, but as a human without any power or divinity. Moreover, his spirit was still bound by divine true metal, so any attempt to resist would be promptly dealt with. The gateway of reincarnation was right in front of them. Chang Seon bid Yul farewell and eagerly passed through it. Before disappearing completely, Yul had one last thing to say. You are an envoy borrowing the power of the Nether God. Chang Seon woke up once again, and the first thing he saw was a system notification announcing his successful rebirth with all his past life memories intact and a 5-point boost to all his attributes. What in the world is this? A terrified girl's voice rang out, on the verge of tears. It wasn't just her, but everyone around was filled with anxiety as they found themselves unexpectedly transported to this strange forest through the gate. Chang Seon remembered what Thanatos had said. The place you'll awaken in is Earth, but also not Earth, a random dungeon break. In front of them, a guidance board appeared. Welcome to the instant dungeon. Benevolent Forest. Current number of entrants is 432. The mission theme was development defeat the various monsters inhabiting Benevolent Forest and climb to the top of the hill across the forest. The forest was divided into 5 sections, each with different monsters and challenges. As soon as the begin sign appeared, Chang Seon wasted no time. He tried to check his body's condition in the system window, but couldn't access it. Everything was awaiting an update. Gradually, his true identity became clear. Thanatos had granted him extraordinary authority. Soul Collection Level 1 and Execution Sword Level 1. Soul Collection is an authority that allows one to give one's good deeds to another and even take possession of the burnt karma. By collecting even the soul every time a monster was defeated, he would be able to gather more experience. With the Execution Sword, he would be able to seal one's divinity and even steal their authority. Theoretically, it's even possible to gather an unlimited amount of authority. Suddenly, a black mamba snake attacked. Chang Seon swiftly drew a beginner rusted short sword from his inventory and effortlessly split the snake in 2. Chang Seon's incredible talent immediately caught the attention of the good season to hunt. Her true name was Pabalsag, famous for being the goddess of war that used every type of weapon to enjoy hunting. Undeterred, Chang Seon continued his journey, facing a poison-filled area where the creatures were probably poisonous as well. 2 black mambas appeared, and Chang Seon swiftly engaged them using his specialized technique called Snake Hunter Approach. More creatures approached, but Chang Seon fought them off with his weapon, steadily leveling up his dagger skills and experience points. After defeating the black mambas, Chang Seon obtained their ashes, recovering 5% of his stamina and being no longer in an exhausted state. With restored strength, Chang Seon continued his hunting journey. The final black serpent on this level also met its fate, rewarding him with 5 low-level poison resistance points and the attention of a god. Then, he targeted the Blood Mamba, a boss mob that controls the Mambas. He needed its snaggletooths to gain a shortcut to poison immunity and win against the curse of Gaia. Suddenly, a celestial sword appeared. Good Seasons to Hunt was putting this weapon at stake for a bet with him. If he failed, Good Seasons to Hunt would take away his time and kill him. Time passed slowly as the remaining players stood in a safe zone, receiving constant system notifications about the monsters. Lee Chang Seon, the player who had been dominating everything, had already defeated the White Worm, the Blue Crows, and the Red Mambas. Impressed by Chang Seon's hunting skills, The good seasons to hunt considered making him her apostle. But first, she presented him with a new mission. Within 24 hours, defeat the Blood Mamba with the provided temporary sword. If Chang Seon succeeded, he would obtain the evil dragon's snaggletooth and become an apostle. However, failure meant death. Undeterred, Chang Seon confidently accepted the challenge and even added an additional bet from this point of time. I will kill the bloody Mamba within 30 minutes. Because I'm giving you more entertainment, please give me a bigger reward. With the deal agreed upon, he swiftly made his way to the Blood Mamba's lair, defeating more monsters along the path to grow stronger. Rumors of the bet had spread like wildfire across heaven. Some gods were watching his performance with suspicious eyes. Taking cover behind a tree, Chang Seon patiently waited for the right moment to attack. Coincidentally, the system notified him of reaching level 10 and unlocking the secret class. Choosing to become a berserker known for having high attack power, but losing their sanity, Chang Seon made his decision. However, to his surprise, the berserker class was nowhere to be found in the available options. With only 6 minutes remaining for betting, he decided to choose the Runekeeper as his primary class, despite some disadvantages. The divine being, Good Seasons to Hunt, was greatly shocked by his decision. Some gods laughed and mocked the situation. Undeterred, he quickly activated his newly unlocked class skills, lowest grade rune production, and lowest grade rune engraving. He then added additional stats into the intelligence and will stat. The Blood Mamba attacked, but he skillfully dodged and struck his own palm with his blade. Using his own blood, he inscribed the symbol of the Rune of Explosion. As the magic power was consumed, he fell into a state of hunger. Suddenly, a loud explosion echoed from the distant forest, outside the designated safe zone. The nearby rookie players received the astonishing news that Lee Chang Seon was battling the boss, leaving them wide-eyed and amazed. A fierce battle broke out, and they could only stand still, witnessing the continuous bursts of light before their eyes. The forest trembled violently, and amidst the thick smoke, Chang Seon leapt into the air like a god and struck the Blood Mamba with a decisive blow. It let out a mighty roar, leaving everyone on edge. Shortly after, the system announced the completion of the first dungeon section. Lee Chang Seon secured the first rank with 4,999 points, while Soldier Park Hae-seong lagged behind with just 1 point. A huge Mamba's head abruptly appeared before them, making them really afraid. They thought they were being attacked by the Blood Mamba, but it turned out to be just an empty shell brought by Chang Seon. After a suspenseful moment, he said, "I assume you guys are players? The boss has been taken care of. I'd like to request for you to take on the smaller fry." Park Hae-seong nodded and told him to take a rest while they took care of the preparations. Chang Seon nodded and quickly carried away the boss. He knew they saw him as some kind of demon, but it wasn't surprising, considering the circumstances. Before the next mission unlocked, they had a 1-hour break. Chang Seon carved the Rune of Obstruction on a rock to mark it as a peaceful place for checking his achievements. He claimed the rewards and earned 15,000 points, along with a list of 6 items for his draconic records. The Good Season to Hunt kept urging him to receive candidacy as an apostle, but she only received a dislike as he was focused on gaining experience points. So, he converted the rewards into achievement points, boosting his total to over 2 million. Ignoring her anger and the mocking laugh of other gods, he utilized the Blood Mamba's blood and eyes to collect more items. Meanwhile, in the safe zone, a beam of light descended, revealing a cute rabbit named Harold. "Pleased to see you all. I'm Harold, the administrator of the Kiar channel. Due to the Administrative Bureau's policies that were non-interference and high degree of freedom, they tried their best to not get involved with the players. But there had been a spike in the transmission rates in this dungeon channel. Because of this, the upper management was annoyed. So the administrator came here to adjust the difficulty. And true to its words, the safe zone ceased to exist. The monster's aggression, attack power, and defense power were also increased. Park Hae-seong silently cursed, remembering the previous filtering event where the gods in Constellation also summoned an administrator to increase the difficulty greatly to test With the heightened challenge, the monsters were in a state of hunger, leaving them no time for rest. The second stage allowed the formation of parties with a maximum of 10 members, with different equipment rewards based on their contribution. Phase 2 required each party to collect at least 99 crystals to complete the mission. As a 5-second countdown began, a rabbit suddenly appeared behind Parkasian, recognizing him as the sole survivor of the evil dragon's den. It grinned wickedly and whispered, "I'll pray for you to stay here." Not far away, Chang Seon obtained a black mamba's poisonous fang to get poison immunity when the system announced the start of Phase 2. Knowing the filtering was underway, Parkasian expected some time, but the increased difficulty seemed to be the consequence of winning his pet. With his stamina nearly depleted, he had no time to waste and immediately engaged in battle. His first opponent in Stage 2 was a fire lizard with fire poison. Determined to end the fight quickly, Chang Seon swiftly struck the creature's body. The fire lizard unleashed a massive column of flames, but Chang Seon skillfully dodged and struck the vulnerable spot on its head. Although the fire lizard's fighting ability was lower than a mamba snake, they usually traveled in packs. Hurriedly, he retrieved a crystal of fire and swallowed it, gaining a low-grade fire resistance along with 20,000 fire energy. To obtain poison immunity of 8 trigram CERN's heat energy, Chang Seon quickly considered battling the approaching group of lizards for more crystals of fire. In the underworld, Thanatos taught him a portion of the secret arts of the fallen stars to take down most of the 12 zodiacs. The fallen stars were tried as criminals and sent to the underworld, called the 10 Elders. And the first elder was the first one giving Chang Seon his teaching of becoming unpoisonable. After defeating the pack of fire lizards, Chang Seon consumed many crystals of fire, but he couldn't light up the fire element of the 8 trigrams with only this level of fire energy. So, he had to find the lizard's base and eat stronger and more tenacious bastards. You have defeated the fire lizard. Player Jun Chong Jae is running wild. These words appeared on his system. He thought that with the number of fire lizards he had just eliminated, Chang Seon would be left in ashes. Little did he know that Chang Seon was still going strong. Wide-eyed, Chun Jae stared at the approximate 7,000-point gap between them. He was unable to comprehend what was happening. With Chang Seon shining so brightly, what was the point of fighting anymore? While other players struggled to earn points, Chang Seon easily defeated more monsters and consumed crystals of fire. Suddenly, he heard a young girl scream and rushed to help her with a bear, receiving surprising information in return. That girl showed Chang Seon a wrist symbol in the shape of an owl and explained that a person named Chong Jae had shared the power of the goddess with this mark. "You were scammed. That's the brand of a demon," Chang Seon said. This seal symbolized that she sold her soul to a demon. If the branded person dies, their vitality and soul are taken. He thought that Jun Chong Jae must have become very strong. If it's a demon, it must be a great demon that surpasses the Demon King rank. Realizing the immense power, Chang Seon hurried away, but the persistent girl followed, insisting that she could do anything if he helped her become stronger. Over time, the girl swiftly activated her Gale Sprint skills, succeeding in captivating the breaking ghouls. Earlier, Chang Seon noticed the girl's talent for running away, so he suggested engraving the rune of captivation on her to lure the monsters. He tasked the girl with running through the creatures while he focused on other matters. After successfully defeating a group of undead, Chang Seon turned and asked the girl if there were any more monsters nearby. Excitedly, the girl informed him that all the monsters within a 300-meter radius had been drawn towards her. She asked if there was anything else she could assist him with. Shaking his head, Chang Seon advised the girl to run far away from the place as the final boss monster was about to appear. As predicted, once the girl left, decomposing plague spider stood before Chang Seon, leaving him amazed and startled. The decomposing plague spider was made from decaying corpses. It screeched and sprayed toxic substances at him. Just then, The divine being snake that wraps around the world bestowed upon him the skill Viper Eyes to grasp the essential traits without any conditions. Perhaps the purpose of this gift was to test his abilities. He focused all attention on the spider's leg. Without delay, he activated a low-grade poison resistance and utilized accumulated fire energy to purge out the poison within his body. Once that was done, he charged into close combat, swiftly wielding his sword to cut off one of its legs. The spider cried out in pain, but that was still not enough. What he needed at that moment was something highly flammable. Luckily, the plague spider's venom glands were highly combustible, which suited his needs. His Viper Eyes noticed that the venoms were in front of the spider's heart. Chang Seon then quickly attacked, but couldn't penetrate its tough exoskeleton. The demonic faces on the spider's body sprayed acid to stop him. Given his current abilities, the best option was to run as fast as possible. Chung Jae was always the wretched pursuer. He went to a location filled with undead, only to realize they had already been wiped out. The system board taunted him by displaying the dungeon rankings with Chang Seon at the top. Frustrated by Chung Jae's low ranking, the divine being backing him grew angrier and threatened to punish Chang Seon for tarnishing the god's reputation. Consumed by envy, Chung Jae bit his finger, drawing blood, as he wondered how Chang Seon achieved such a high score. The information board updated, prompting Chung Jae to declare, "I must kill Lee Chang Seon." He sprinted forward with determination. As the mastermind behind the traps, he lured the spider to a prepared location. In an instant, he witnessed it falling into a pit. He activated the rune of explosion, triggering a massive explosion. Not satisfied, he then activated the rune of penetration, turning the spider into a honeycomb. Chang Seon hovered on a thread, staring at the still-living monster below. Feeling unsatisfied, he quickly cut the thread he was holding, activating another rune of penetration. Chang Seon relentlessly attacked the creature. As Chung Jae's group approached, they were astonished to witness the fierce battle between Chang Seon and the monster. Glancing at the people around him, Chung Jae had a wicked thought. If he throwed these normal people at Chang Seon forcefully, then it could wear him down more. Unaware of their presence, Chang Seon continued his assault, landing several cuts. He then leaped high and obliterated the remaining health of the decomposing plague spider with his critical strike. Finally, he ended the battle by devouring the monster's venom glands and quickly reaching level 20 in just a minute. With an incredibly high score that surpassed other players, he completed the final section. The intense display caused a commotion among the gods. Thinking that Chang Seon was completely drained after the boss fight, Chung Jae led his group to attack. To their surprise, they saw a wicked smile briefly appear on Chang Seon's face. The system announced player Chung Jae and the rest around him have fallen into a trap. Taken aback, Chang Seon looked at the people in front of him and said, "It means you're fucked." He swiftly took down the two players blocking his path. The sudden quest to escape the ambush was also activated. Chung Jae and Chang Seon charged at each other, but Chang Seon's single swing of the blade overwhelmed him. Chung Jae had to run and ask others to help in his place. One by one, they were defeated by Chang Seon. Seeing this, Chung Jae realized his own weakness, and Chang Seon was really strong, like a monster. All the cursed players were dead. According to the contract of Stigma, their remaining life force should have been transferred to Chung Jae. Chang Seon lunged and cut Chung Jae's arm, causing him pain. For unknown reasons, Chang Seon was the one that absorbed the vitality of the fallen. He now struggled to remember the name of his opponent. Chung Jae felt angry and humiliated because Chang Seon didn't recognize him. Chung Jae was a reserve member of the gaming team, jealous of not winning the trophy and shining like the team captain. He followed Chang Seon, and now his hidden agenda led him to this outcome. A single slash ended Chung Jae's life, and the announcement board displayed, "The cursed player Chung Jae has died. Thus, The fate of these ordinary playthings, once considered gods, came to an end. Chang Seon absorbed Chongjae's remaining life force, a mysterious divine being whose name remained unknown, promised Chang Seon an unexpected gift to be revealed in the next 5 seconds. Then, the god unleashed its fury on the remaining survivors. Park Hae-sung had been secretly watching, filled with worry. If Chang Seon didn't meet their expectations or generate enough interest, his entire being would disappear. The yes and no buttons appeared for the gift of taking all that life force. Seeing Chang Seon's cold and emotionless eyes, Hae-sung expected an immediate yes. But Chang Seon surprised him by choosing no. This decision confused the nameless god. The god claimed to be granting Chang Seon the magic power he needed, but Chang Seon firmly stated, "I can't trust someone whose name is constantly hidden." Realizing this, the god laughed before modifying the information on the system board. The great demon that chases after the abyss, a name that brought to mind Mephistopheles, one of the strongest great demons. That demon was so powerful that even Tiamat had to prepare in order to win against him. Seeing Mephistopheles aiming at Chang Seon, but the good season to hunt intervened and insisted on protecting him. Luckily, Pabelsag remembered Chang Seon and prevented Mephistopheles' intention. The system started a 10-second countdown to seal the dungeon. From afar, a girl rushed toward Chang Seon, wanting his contact number, but he refused. He gave her a bone knife with an address in the back, telling her to come to that address to completely remove the stigma. If the opportunity arises, they would meet again in the future. The golden light faded, and the survivors returned to reality, happily embracing their loved ones. However, Chang Seon vanished without a trace. Under the moonlight, Chang Seon whispered, "Gramps, although the method is different from what you'd thought, I'm back." The next day, Chang Seon walked around the city with 4 powerful gods: the good season to hunt, the snake that wraps around the world, the great devil that chases after the abyss, and the owl that pierces the dusk, all trying to tempt him with enticing offers. 9 other gods followed, eagerly waiting to see which protection star he would choose. Despite their persuasive words, Chang Seon remained firm in his decision. He ignored them and refused to become an apostle of any gods. After centuries, Chang Seon finally returned home. There, he was greeted by his mother's delicious kimchi stew and his beloved pet dog. His mother, busy in the kitchen, happily told him to take a bath before joining her for a meal. During a tense meal, everyone eventually broke the silence and left, one by one. Chang Seon, caught up in his happiness, nearly forgot that he was born into a wealthy family. His older brother had gone to medical school following after his father, while his older sister majored in music and received many competitive awards. As for Chang Seon, he had a strong drive to win since he was young. He was obsessed with gaming and was always treated as a weirdo. Feeling down, he took another bite of rice. His father noticed his indifference and began recounting a story. It was about the time when the Jamsil Gate appeared, and the whole family worriedly searched everywhere. Yet here Chang Seon was, calmly eating without saying a word. His father scolded him, suggesting it would be best that he left the house if he continued with that attitude. After his outburst, his father stormed off. Chang Seon saw tears on his father's face and noticed the wrinkles on his mother's forehead. He wondered why he had never initiated conversations with them before. Chang Seon returned to his room, feeling sad. But when he opened the door, he was greeted by a messy battlefield of trash and empty bottles of wine. He held the small puppy in his arms and realized his first task was to clean up and organize everything. After finishing, he lay down on the bed to rest, but he couldn't shake off the presence of the meddlesome gods. Thinking about the chaotic meal earlier, he made a silent decision to improve himself and show his family how he had changed. He had a mission from Thanatos, and his target was the arrogant ruler of his home, known as the Tiger Submerged in Hardship. He knew this person well, as this guy was one of the ringleaders who had made him undergo divine judgment. He was as cruel as a tiger and had a lot of followers under him who could quickly manipulate situations. Their clan on the surface was called the White Tiger, and the empty ruler was their guardian star. Chang Seon looked at the recruitment notice from the White Tiger on his phone screen. He decided to start slowly from the bottom, cutting off their arms and legs without them noticing. And he knew that he had to finish up all the preparations within a month, no matter the cost. But instead, he secretly headed to the dense forest at the foot of the mountain. In this new life, nothing could stop him, except for his unsettled stomach. After going to the restroom, he found a secluded spot in the forest. Chang Seon carved the rune of stealth on a tree and then undressed. He opened his inventory and absorbed various toxic items. The first elder had taught him that fire was commonly used to repel toxins and eliminate demons because of its pure nature and purifying properties. When toxins enter the body, they would be burned to ashes. Chang Seon absorbed venom from a bloody mamba's fang, piercing through his heart and activating novice poison resistance. He continued to absorb high-grade poisons until his body signaled danger, but he persisted. His body turned a dark green and purple, completely saturated with potent toxins. Then, a massive pillar of fire engulfed him, purifying his body. What the first elder said was true. With the purification complete, Chang Seon activated flames of the furnace of 8 trigrams and regenerated his body. Then he achieved Phoenix that rises from the ashes and 10 poison immunity. He finally obtained what he wanted. With his newfound abilities, Chang Seon set out to find a suitable weapon. He went to the Sungsu housing complex to find the skilled blacksmith, Yu Yazi. To his disappointment, he discovered that the forge had been shut down for over 5 years. The lock was rusty and the sign worn out, but Chang Seon could still smell the scent of divine fire inside the forge, which meant a proper brazier was being used. He broke the lock and used his strength to lift the heavy door to step inside. Inside, he found a variety of high-quality weapons that excited even the good seasoned to hunt. While examining a unique sword, he was surprised by a blind man and his dog. At Chang Seon's home, Conquest team leaders Seo Jung Kwon from the White Tiger clan, Special Agent Che Ye-yoon from the WPCF Association, and Personnel Director Woo Young-jun from the Sword of 5 Stars all arrived to recruit him. Chang Seon's mother listened to their competing arguments and asked them to share what Chang Seon had been doing during his 5 days in the Jamsil dungeon. Meanwhile, Chang Seon and the old blacksmith had a slight disagreement. The blacksmith thought Chang Seon was causing trouble and wanted to chase him away, as the forge had been closed for years. Knowing the blacksmith's financial difficulties, Chang Seon offered to pay 10 million won up front and an additional 50 million won for the work, regardless of its quality. The blind man quickly agreed to this generous offer, and the deal was sealed with a satisfying ting-ting sound as the money was transferred to his account. After hearing about the numerous weapons Chang Seon wanted to create, the blind man immediately said he couldn't do it. Instantly, 100 million won was sent, along with a warning not to refuse, as the contract cancellation fee was 3 times larger. According to legend, he would continue sending money if the blind man dared to decline. The blind man seemed puzzled as to why Chang Seon trusted him enough to assign such a task on their first meeting. Not getting a response to his question, the blacksmith brought up the issues he was facing, with the most important one being the search for a stolen hammer. The thief was once his father's old disciple and had recently been recruited by the clan High-Off. Chang Seon promised to retrieve it himself. The man revealed the location of a tomb in Bonghwa Mountain, Jungnang District. That night, Chang Seon arrived at the thieves' hideout. Prior to entering, he discovered that the clan High-Off was just a group of misfits. So, there wouldn't be any issues if he got rid of all of them. Wearing the smirking Ha-Ho mask to hide his identity and secure his vision, he threw the hidden weapons made by the feather of the ice kite at the guards below. After freezing them, he used his blood poison skill to inject them with destructive toxins. Ignoring the agonizing screams of the feeble guards outside, Chang Seon quickly proceeded into the dungeon, beginning his dungeon mission with the mission theme of grave robbery. Suddenly, he stopped and turned, looking in a certain direction, and asked, "Why don't you come out? If you don't plan on coming out, you leave me no choice. If I meet the next administrator, I'll have to give that person the right for skills." Harold the rabbit finally showed up. He knew that the rabbit followed him to write the report from the previous dungeon. Harold couldn't argue and suspected that Chang Seon was an experienced player, not a newbie. Chang Seon assured Harold that he could let it continue, but he had a few simple requests, which he would explain before leaving the dungeon. To seal the agreement, a mana pledge between the player Lee Chang Seon and the administrator Harold had been concluded. Disregarding Harold's startled expression, Lee Chang Seon, the high-off chief of the Conquest Department, was furious about the punishment attack nearby. He vented his anger on two subordinates and ordered them to bring Jin Dae-hwan. Jin Dae-hwan, the thief who had stolen the hammer, now found himself on his knees, begging for forgiveness. Jin Dae-hwan promised success, this time with the help of blood, having succeeded up to the second layer of the three-layer locking mechanism. Reluctantly, the team leader agreed, warning Jin Dae-hwan that failure would result in the destruction of his entire family. Meanwhile, Chang Seon continued his relentless destruction, while a fearful Harold tried to complete the report from a safe distance. Chang Seon's fierce fighting style reminded Harold of the legendary Twilight of the Gods, who had slain countless gods and stars, instilling fear in everyone who heard their name. Standing in front of the path, a strong smell of blood and dead bodies filled the air. The twilight-piercing owl warned him that a wicked energy could be felt emanating from all around. The god of goodness appeared angry and commanded him to stop this horrifying sight and deliver justice. Chang Seon had heard that the High-Off members were planning to make a key to the boss's room, but he didn't know what the offering would be. Suddenly, he heard a loud noise from a group of people. It was the High-Off members. They brought many people there, maybe for the offering. They threatened to kill some if those people didn't move quickly. Chang Seon immediately froze and shattered the two leaders, then attacked another person. He coldly asked the person in front of him, "Do you want to live?" The person nodded, frightened, and started sharing everything he knew about the place with Chang Seon. Thinking that being honest would spare him, he was surprised to hear, "I only asked if you wanted to live. I didn't say I would spare you, did I?" Chang Seon used a dagger crafted from the fang of a fire tiger to end that person's life, and then collected the soul of the unfortunate person and walked away, leaving everyone terrified. Meanwhile, Lee Jae-sung was waiting at the sacrificial location but didn't see anyone. Suddenly, he saw Chang Seon's ranking in the dungeon system rise rapidly from 57 to 11, then to an astonishing second place in a few minutes. A person, one of Lee Jae-sung's subordinates, ran towards him, but before saying anything, the person exploded. Lee Jae-sung was poisoned by necrotoxin and acid poison from the terrible burn. Facing a critical situation, he quickly grabbed a detoxification, but Chang Seon arrived before he could use it. Chang Seon swung the dagger crafted from the fang of a fire tiger towards Lee Jae-sung's throat, but he evaded and countered Chang Seon's moves with impressive senses. To distract Lee Jae-sung, Chang Seon threw an empty antidote towards him. Realizing it was a trap, Lee Jae-sung turned back, but faced a barrage of strikes from Chang Seon. With his superior dagger art skills, Chang Seon shattered Jae-sung's sword and launched a rapid series of devastating cuts, overwhelming the opponent. The Soul Exploitation Authority was activated, absorbing the ashes of the player Lee Jae-sung. The Twilight-piercing owl praised Chang Seon and gave him two privileges, including a wavering heart and a composed heart. The dungeon ranking board was updated, with Chang Seon now leading and Lee Jae-sung falling from grace. The system announced a key was hidden somewhere. Find it and remove the locking mechanism. Chang Seon retrieved a bone spear crafted from the rib of a flame goat and threw it towards the lurking figure nearby. Coincidentally, It was Jin Dae Hwan, enabling him to effortlessly reclaim the stolen hammer. Instead of immediately returning home after acquiring what he desired, Chang Seon found himself intrigued by the door. To expedite progress, he promptly summoned Harold and commanded the faithful companion to open the door. Harold appeared but immediately objected to his request, since according to the rules, it was impossible for an administrator to get themselves involved in the dungeon mission. However, Chang Seon knew the rules could change anytime depending on the situation and contested Harold's statement. With no choice, Harold reluctantly used its abilities to open the door, expecting punishment. It hoped for a mere pay reduction. As the door opened, a red notification appeared. You are being influenced by the curse. Starting now, the ruler of the dungeon will try to seize your body. The mission was to resist until the end and get to the altar, then smash the golden crown. While Chang Seon faced the boss, Harold laughed outside, thinking he would perish since the owner of the tomb was an immense size of evil thoughts of Bestla. To their surprise, the system announced Chang Seon activated the unwavering heart and composed heart and completed the dungeon mission. The dungeon started to close, and Chang Seon left with the golden key as a reward, leaving the confused rabbit behind. Chang Seon returned the stolen hammer to Choi Bu-yong, but Choi Bu-yong lamented that a month wasn't enough time to complete the weapon. Chang Seon said, "Since I'm requesting something unreasonable, I'll give you 3 times the pay." That request immediately made the man silent. Then he suddenly took Choi Bu-yong's family heirloom and asked to buy it. Choi Bu-yong resisted but eventually accepted a 100 million won offer, allowing Chang Seon to take the item. Chang Seon hailed a taxi and hurriedly returned home, clutching the golden key in his hand. He couldn't help but wonder why the greatest treasure inside Bestla's tomb turned out to be Peter's key. But then he remembered his mother waiting for dinner and pushed those thoughts aside, quickly rushing home so as not to worry her. At his house, upon receiving news about the tomb, Seo Jung-won instantly became furious and unleashed the tiger aura right in front of everyone. Seeing this, the person accompanying him hastily intervened, urging him to remain calm for the sake of the civilian present. Reluctantly, Seo Jung-kwon withdrew her hand, casting a glance at Chang Seon's mother before abruptly heading back. The once spacious house now stood empty, with only a few individuals remaining. Upon learning that her youngest son was the awakened, Chang Seon's mother couldn't help but feel a tinge of sadness. She confided in Shea Ye-yoon, expressing her desire not to see her son harmed, but realizing that it might be inevitable. Therefore, she no longer wanted any guests and asked everyone to leave. Having been turned away by the host, they had no choice but to leave. However, only Shea Ye-yoon's group returned, as they received a red alert to rescue the people being held as sacrifices in the tomb. Woo Young-jun insisted on staying behind to not miss his encounter. On the way back, Chang Seon continuously swung the sword he obtained from Choi Bu-yong. He knew that this was the fish intestine sword, one of the 9 excellent swords made by the first Gu Ya-jae, who was called a godly blacksmith. There were rumors that the original owner of the fish intestine sword was an assassin, so it was called the demonic sword that contained the enormous grudges and tenacities of its victims. Chang Seon's cold gaze suddenly focused on a particular location, and he swiftly took out the chisel crafted from the fang of Fire Tiger and threw it towards the direction he was observing. Chang Seon swiftly impaled the weapon into the tree trunk, forcing Woo Young-jun to reveal himself. Before he could react, Chang Seon charged at him. Chang Seon's eyes were ice cold, and his unmatched speed forced Woo Young-jun to quickly draw his sword for defense. With just the first strike, Woo Young-jun exclaimed, "What is this rookie so strong?" But that was just the beginning. Chang Seon's short swordsmanship was clunky and had no discernible patterns, leaving Woo Young-jun sweat profusely and desperately try to evade and defend. Feeling overwhelmed, Woo Young-jun used his most powerful skill, the bow's limbs cry out for countless crescents. Chang Seon didn't back down. He continued his relentless assault. At a critical moment, Woo Young-jun raised his hand in surrender, accepting defeat. Woo Young-jun bowed his head, apologized for hiding his presence. He handed Chang Seon his business card and cheerfully invited him to join their clan, but Chang Seon promptly declined without hesitation. Despite criticism, Woo Young-jun maintained his smile and suggested meeting again in the future. Worried that his mother knew everything, Chang Seon hurried home. To his surprise, his mother greeted him with the same warm smile as always, as if unaware of the events. Not wanting to hide any longer, that night, Chang Seon decided to open up to his mother about being awakened. At 8:25 a.m., the alarm clock reminded Chang Seon of his interview with the White Tiger clan at 3 p.m. At the agreed time, a large number of people arrived for the interview registration. A bald man pointed Chang Seon towards a mana gauge and instructed him to place his hand on it for a test. Suddenly, the device couldn't handle the pressure and exploded. The arrival of the main character caused a commotion in the auditorium. His nickname as Tyrant made people remember that he used to fall into a drinking problem after the team disbanded, and he was forced to retire. Initially underestimated, things changed when the mana measurement system displayed impressive data for rookie Lee Chang Seon, level 25 with a magic power rank of 3/3. People there were really amazed. Seo Jung-kwon, in a separate room, was unaware of the recent events. He was focused on news about a tomb excavation and a mysterious person who stole Peter's key. Suddenly, the bald man rushed in, looking panicked. He was informed that Senior Managing Director Oh and Director Kim were on their way to Zone C. Lee Chang Seon, the exceptional rookie they had been searching for, had just appeared and excelled in every aspect with the highest magical abilities. Seo Jung-kwon was thrilled and exclaimed, "Let's go! I have to stake my claim on him before the others do." Returning to Chang Seon, he stood in Zone C, attracting envious and admiring gazes from the spectators. Not far away, two oddly dressed individuals stared intently at him from the stands. The Constellation tiger, sunken in turmoil, was observing him with interest. The instructor explained that the test was a monster hunt. Chang Seon could say the name of any monsters he wanted, from a red orc to a twin-headed ogre, etc. to face in combat. Chang Seon disregarded the lower-level monsters and requested to face the strongest one, Drake. As requested, a colossal and savage monster over 3 meters tall, driven by a thirst for blood, was summoned. Standing there, Chang Seon couldn't help but remember the scornful smile of the god Haju during his previous judgment. This time, he was determined to astound him. The previous day, Chang Seon went to the blacksmith Choi Buyong's place to get what he needed. He felt pity, seeing the frail and hungry blacksmith. The hungry Drake monster charged at Chang Seon, but he quickly threw his bag of weapons into the air and caught the attack. He avoided the strike and swiftly stabbed the monster's eyes with 2 nameless twin pole spear. Everyone was surprised by his counterattack. Chang Seon then used his leather whip to tightly wrap around the spear's handle and pulled it out, causing even more pain to Drake. The wounded Drake roared in agony as its vision was blinded. Chang Seon combined the 2 spears into one and delivered an even stronger blow. With a powerful thrust, he pierced the monster's skull, creating a bright golden effect that indicated a critical hit. As time passed, the battle approached its end. The blood poison skill he activated inflicted unimaginable pain on Drake's body. The venom spread, paralyzing the once powerful creature. Gripping the dual spears tightly, Chang Seon, with his exceptional speed, delivered a final decisive blow, defeating the monster in front of everyone's eyes. Being a super rookie with remarkable talent and intelligence, Chang Seon caught the attention of all 4 team captains who eagerly sought to recruit him. "I'll be the one claiming him." "Nonsense. The one taking him will be me." Just as the 4 of them were about to engage in a brawl, a tremendous surge of power suddenly erupted, causing everyone nearby to have nosebleeds. White Tiger Clan Executive Director Oh Shi-hwan had arrived. Despite his elderly appearance, Chang Seon knew that he was an incredibly strong figure who couldn't be underestimated. And the surprising thing was that he had taken an interest in Chang Seon. Not only that, but he also used his authority to sideline the 4 team captains and claim Chang Seon for himself. Managing Director Oh brought Chang Seon to his office and, after some casual remarks, cut to the chase with a question, "Is there anything you want?" Chang Seon, of course, had his own purpose. He told him that he wanted to join the Future Strategy Division. This answer caught Oh Shihwan off guard, and he chuckled with a hint of amusement. However, if one wants to sit in a position that no one else can occupy, they must endure an indescribable feeling. Therefore, he wanted Chang Seon to prove himself to everyone. How about setting a new record on the Scarlet Mountain Range? His response immediately made Oh Shihwan hesitate. To convince him further, Chang Seon added that he would clear the entire mountain as well. But first, he wanted to visit the library of the White Tiger clan to learn a few things. Oh Shihwan had no reason to refuse, so he nodded in agreement and told him to make use of it as he wished. A few days later, Chang Seon went alone to the Scarlet Mountain Range to carry out his mission. The mission was to find the source of a mysterious magic and eliminate it to return the creatures back to their original forms. He explored the vast, dark red mountain, aware that someone was following him. He suspected it was the same person who had trailed him since the library and training grounds. This made him question Oh Shihwan's intentions. Going back to the events at the White Tiger Library, Chang Seon had been instructed by Thanatos to find the Call of the Advent there. The Call of the Advent was the divine power that placed the Sagittarius and the Zodiacs in the modern age. If he could secure this power, no one would be able to stand in his way after he achieved transcendence in the future and reawaken his holiness. He searched through the books, disregarding the librarian's presence. Using his resolute will skill to enhance focus, he read for days. Although the immense amount of information took a toll on his head, he also discovered fragments of wisdom regarding the tiger sunken in turmoil, deepening his understanding. The librarian allowed him a week to read, but now only 3 hours remained. Despite his efforts, Chang Seon hadn't found the Call of the Advent he sought. As he absent-mindedly placed his hand on a bookshelf, intending to recheck everything once again, he suddenly sensed something different. Among the ordinary books, he discovered 100 recipes you can make with monster meat. Flipping it upside down and starting reading from the opposite direction, he realized it wasn't the desired Call of the Advent, but rather, he discovered a deep anguish within this place. According to the information he read, it mentioned the legendary swordsman Lee Chang Seon, one of the 9 strongest swordsmen in the world and one of the White Clan chiefs. He co-founded this place with the managing director, Oh, and a follower of the ruler of emptiness. The main character of the book was Han Yuzuru, who was a fellow disciple to Lee Chang Seon and was known as the successor of the clan. One day, his master brought to him a disciple who was much younger than him, and Han Yuzuru treated that disciple as a brother, but was unaware of the darkness and violent nature that lay within him. The ruler of emptiness decided to choose Lee Chang Seon as the successor instead of Han Yuzuru. When Han Yuzuru realized his body was poisoned over a period of time and he could no longer wield his sword, Lee Chang Seon all planned this. Seon cut the tendons of his limbs, sealed his mama organ, and locked him up in a cave in the basement of the clan. The sponsors shifted their protection to Lee Chang Seon. He then built the White Tiger clan headquarters at the same land of the old clan. As Chang Seon was reading, he made a surprising discovery, but the book reached its final page, leaving no further information. He became infuriated, shouting in frustration about where the remaining part of that book could be. The system announced that he had discovered a hidden piece, increasing the skill construction progress to 51%. A small mission was activated, indicating that there were still fragments of the hidden piece. Chang Seon had to find them all and combine them into one. With only 2 hours remaining, Chang Seon frantically searched the library. suspecting that someone had intentionally made it difficult for the disciple of the legendary swordsman to find. Once the secret password was decrypted, the remaining pieces would be easy to locate. Chang Seon's hand continuously touched the bookshelves, and suddenly he paused, then smiled with contentment. Found it. Lee Chang Seon finally found the mysterious piece of the puzzle, and he continued to follow the story. Hanyu says that the person is the same as him. He was betrayed by a priest and confined to this place, and he endlessly wandered around the underworld as a demon. That person and Hanyu both share the same enemy. This is a secret history. One of the things that the Void Monarch wanted to keep hidden, but Chang Seon found him weak. That person also said that the one whom Hanyu and his master had respected for so long was the divine being, the tiger that had been trapped in hardships. In order to become a god, the tiger had to become a demon and devour his family. And that person said that he needed to see that demon's neck break, then he could rest in peace. Then that person taught Hanyu the method to defeat the tiger that has been trapped in hardships. Thanks to the foundation, Hanyu was able to regain his strength and re-energize his body. Then Hanyu trained again in order to regain his power. After Hanyu was able to fully focus on his recovery, and on the day when his priest returned, Hanyu decided to rise again and set off on a path in order to destroy that priest, like how the priest betrayed him in the past, and defeat the tiger that has been trapped in hardships. Chang Seon succeeded in finding all the parts of the hidden piece. Then Chang Seon left the library and come training place to protect that place. In the dungeon, blackish red mountain range, Chang Seon is annoyed that Yeojun keeps following him, but with his current skills, Chang Seon can't catch Yeojun. Young Ju-in is being terrorized by his niece. Haibin blames Young-gyun for not being able to recruit Chang Seon to the company according to her wishes. He feels depressed. The gate at Jamsil is the cause of all problems. Young Ju-in loves his niece very much. He is happy to be able to see his niece grow up. He was so terrified when he found out that his niece was caught in the middle of the gate at Jamsil. He did everything he could to save his niece from the dungeon. Young even prayed to the patron the giant with no name to protect his niece. Haibin finally returned safely. She's saying that Chang Seon saved her during a mission in the dungeon, but he hid himself as soon as the dungeon disappeared. Because Chang Seon doesn't want to go public, so Young proposes to hire Chang Seon to work for his company, so Haibin can thank Chang Seon. Haibin is happy after hearing her uncle's suggestion, but Young ignored the issue of hiring Chang Seon, and even Young caused trouble with Chang Seon, so Chang Seon eventually applied to another company. In the dungeon, the trainer explained the rules of the practice camp to all the contestants. After that, all the students learned 3 basic skills of the White Tiger clan. The other players were excited to learn 3 new skills, but Chang Seon terrified them all when he said that he could master those 3 skills and suggested not using his comfort zone. Some players doubted Chang Seo's words. They mocked Chang Seo for being too confident and said that Chang Seo would be embarrassed if he didn't show off those skills. But they challenged the wrong person, and as soon as Chang Seo showed off his skills, both the coach and all the players present were overwhelmed. Yeojun didn't expect Chang Seo to have hidden from the library to practice hard, the skills that took Yeojun 10 years to learn, but Chang Seo only needed to be able to use them proficiently. Even Yeojun has to admit that Chang Seo is a genius. Now Yeojun understands why director Oh pays so much attention to Chang Seo. The Constellations are also very interested in Chang Seo. They compete for Chang Seo's attention and promise Chang Seo many powers and gifts to attract Chang Seo to become their servant. After that, Chang Seo continued deep into the training camp, eventually finding a habitat for the one-legged ghosts. Chang Seo swept the one-legged ghosts, and with incredible power, Chang Seo quickly cleaned up the monsters. The tiger that was been trapped in hardships is amazed by the power of Chang Seo's unleashed claws. After Chang Seo successfully cleared out the one-legged ghost's village, the stars enjoyed the skill Chang Seo used when he fought the one-legged ghost village. He has acquired Screeching Flower. a flower said to grow in sea ocean. It possesses a potent, so carelessly consuming it will cause you to fall ill. Then Chang Seon ate screeching flower to increase 8 trigrams earns fire. After eating a lot of screeching flower and massacring all the monsters in training camp, Chang Seon climbs to the top of the mountain and finds the Jigwee's nest. Chang Seon wants to change the 8 trigrams earns fire, so he has to destroy Jigwee. But now that Jigwee has left its nest, so Chang Seon wants to set up a trap before it returns. The coaches were looking at the trainees list. 40% of the trainees who passed the test in just 10 days. They were affected by Chang Seon's oppressive score. Some trainees formed teams and hunted down Chang Seon with the aim of destroying him. The traps that Chang Seon had prepared for Jigwee had worked. A lot of monsters had been trapped, but Chang Seon had yet to see Jigwee return. Chang Seon is a little disappointed that only fire-type monsters are gathering, and it has been 10 days since Chang Seon rose from level 29 to 32, but he has yet to see Jigwee return to its nest. He guessed that Jigwee had given up its nest. The problem now was that Chang Seon was hesitating because he didn't know if should he follow the river or not. Then he decided to finish some things first. Chang Seon suddenly attacked behind the smoke. It was baked Gyeowol. Chang Seon's attack damaged Gyeowol's spear, much to his surprise. Since Gyeowol saw what Chang Seon did, Chang Seon decided to destroy Gyeowol to keep it a secret. With extremely fast speed and accuracy, Chang Seon repeatedly delivered dangerous blows to Gyeowol, and although trying to dodge, Gyeowol is still overpowered by Chang Seon. In the midst of danger, Gyeowol unleashed a strange attack, which was Secret Art of the Shadow. Chang Seon was surprised because Gyeowol could use that skill. Secret Art of the Shadow is a skill of a friend that Chang Seon used to know in his previous life. Gyeowol was also surprised that Chang Seon knew the name of the skill he used. Gyeowol asks Chang Seon where he knew the name of the skill, but Chang Seon doesn't answer, so Jaipol gets angry and attacks Chang Seon, forcing him to answer. Chang Seon also responds to Gyeowol's attacks. He tries to attack and keep Gyeowol alive because Chang Seon wants to know why Gyeowol knows the secret art of the shadow skill. The gods watched Chang Seon and Gyeowol's match excitedly. They said that the winner would become their disciple. After summoning many skills and combining them, Chang Seon attacked Gyeowol and successfully defeated him. Chang Seon realizes that Gyeowol is a ghost-born, that's why he possesses a special ability. Chang Seon wondered because Xerxes' energy on Gyeowol had weakened so much. Plus, Xerxes had abandoned his son in the mortal realm, not being able to miss such a talent. Chang Seon decided to draw Gyeowol to his side. Understanding Gyeowol's wishes, Chang Seon explained to him that the scars on his face couldn't be cured thanks to Jigwee because they originated from Ghostborn. But Chang Seon can help Gyeowol heal them with Chang Seon's fire, as long as Gyeowol makes a deal with Chang Seon, which is to provide information about Jigwee that Gyeowol gathers and assists Chang Seon in fighting. Gyeowol hesitates a little, but he still agrees, and Gyeowol is finally healed by Chang Seon's fire. However, with his current ability, Chang Seon's flame can't completely heal the scars. Chang Seon asks Gyeowol to help him capture Jigwee so Chang Seon can power up the flame and completely heal Gyeowol's scar. Chang Seon and Gyeowol then relied on Jigwee's behavior and traced it. They entered Jigwee's nest and discovered a lot of treasures and items here. Based on the items that Jigwee had released back to the nest, they were able to determine its current location. After searching for a while, Gyeowol spotted Jigwee's tracks and determined that it was hunting inside the mountain, and they quickly moved to find it. The gods are very excited by Jigwee's huge size. They are also very generous in bestowing many favors on Chang Seon. The gods compete with each other and give a lot of powerful powers to Chang Seon. With those powers, Chang Seon can defeat even Jigwee. While Chang Seon was preparing to attack Jigwee, a group of men appeared and stopped him. They said that this was a protected area, so Chang Seon couldn't continue to attack Jigwee, and he had to leave immediately. Gyeowol disagreed with the decision. He said they had been following this Jigwai for 4 days and asked that people allow Changjin and him to continue hunting monsters, but that people refused Gyeowul's offer. Gyeowul becomes nervous when he sees Jigwi preparing to leave, but the two of them are still stopped by the guards. Chang Seon guessed that something was wrong. He thought that the White Tiger clan was hiding a secret, so he wanted to continue exploring it. Unable to get close to attacking, Chang Seon attacked Jigwi from a distance. He used the 8 trigrams Urn's fire and devoured the flames Jigwai created. Chang Seon is explaining to Gyeowul that Jigwi is now more like a young bird than a powerful monster, but it is still a mythical monster by nature and can only be destroyed by rankers. After analyzing and learning that Jigwi is essentially a cluster of souls, Chang Seon uses his skills to devour Jigwi's soul. All of Chang Seon's stats were warned because the energy he absorbed was too large and exceeded his body's ability to absorb. But after a while of constant updating, Changjin also absorbed Jigwi's energy. There is only one way to completely hunt down Jigwi, and that is to unseal the entirety of the fish intestine sword, and the thing needed for that is an incredible amount of world-ending flame and blood. After combining all the conditions, the seal of the sword was broken, and Changjin became the new owner of the fish intestine sword. Chang Seon used the sword combined with his skills to deliver a fatal blow to Jigwi, and he succeeded in destroying Jigwai. The Constellations were constantly talking and amazed at Chang Seon and Jigwi's last match, and they highly applauded Chang Seon and his sword. The members of the White Tiger clan were also amazed to see Chang Seon destroy Jigwi. But they couldn't let Chang Seon leave because he had discovered the White Tiger clan's secret, and they decided to attack Chang Seon. A group of people suddenly appeared and wanted to attack both Chang Seon and the members of the White Tiger clan. The members of the White Tiger clan had realized that this group of intruders must have known about the research plan that the White Tiger clan was working on, so they chose this dungeon to attack. They knew that their chances of defeating these trespassers were impossible, so they separated one to call for reinforcements and the other to stay to buy time. However, before their plan could begin, they were stopped by intruders and destroyed by them. The intruders couldn't believe that the members of the White Tiger clan were so weak, and they laughed so hard. After destroying the members of the White Tiger clan, they switched their targets to Chang Seon and Gyeowul, but Chang Seon remained calm as if he had planned ahead. Chang Seon tells them that it will be over if they can dodge Jigwi's attack. Then another Jigwi appears. Because Chang Seon has destroyed the Jigwi's mate, this time, the Jigwai will attack more violently than before to avenge its mate. The intruders were thwarted by Jigwi's vicious attacks, and their lives were even threatened. Then, Chang Seon swallowed the Jigwi's right crystal eye and he became a Jigwai. Chang Seon received a lot of bonus points and leveled up after he finished destroying the intruders and the Jigwai. After gathering information from the last surviving intruder, Chang Seon demanded that he tell him all the information he knew about the White Tiger's research. Gyeowul is overwhelmed by Chang Seon's power, surrounding Chang Seon now with a ball of fire, just as Chang Seon is moving the core of the sun toward him. The 7 cryptic scriptures of Haxan, comprised of 7 scrolls. The White Tiger excavated these divine artifacts 20-odd years ago in an unnamed dungeon. The White Tiger managed to find 3 of these scriptures, but even those contained extraordinary power, and it was possible to derive considerable results from them. The White Tiger clan leader, the Heavenly Sword Master Moonsung, is one of the most powerful sword masters in the world, but those following him aren't as extraordinary. However, following a sudden explosive growth, they gained immense fame. They've even become a famous clan worldwide, and this wasn't too long ago. After gathering all the necessary information, Chang Seon fulfilled the invader's wish. Chang Seon freed him. After cleaning everything up, Chang Seon suddenly ripped off Gyeowul's shirt, surprising him. Chang Seon is trying to heal from the damage caused by Ghostborn. Chang Seon reminded Gyeowul that stabilizing excess energy with a Ghostborn is time-consuming and easily distracting. It only takes about an hour or two in the real world, but with Gyeowul, he will feel like hours or months, and the process will take a lot of energy. Changjo comforts Gyeowul that the process will be over and advises him not to give up. Chang Seon also warns Gyeowul that if he gives up even 1 second, everything will fail and Gyeowul may turn into a ghost. And if that happens, Changshin will not hesitate and destroy Gyeowul. Chang Seon then begins the healing process for Gyeowul. The fire that has just been activated brings Gyeowul's consciousness to another dimension. Gyeowul realizes this is his subconscious, and he has witnessed his own traumatic memories of his youth. Gyeowul's inner weakness rise. He doesn't want to face his own past. While Gyeowul almost loses himself, he hears Changshin's voice, and it helps Gyeowul calm down and overcome danger. At this time, Chang Seon was able to destroy Yeojun. Yeojun also realized that he couldn't escape Chang Seon. So while Chang Seon was focusing on Gyeowul, he quickly escaped. Despite running away first, Yeojun is still caught up by Chang Seon. However, Chang Seon has changed his mind. He won't destroy Yeojun, but only use him as a tool to follow Director. Oh. Then Yeojun was forced by Chang Seon and swallowed the illusion pearl. After swallowing the illusion pearl, Yeojun lost consciousness. Now he is left with only one body and completely obeys Changshin's orders. After checking for a while, Chang Seon ordered Yeojun to return to report to Director. Oh, everything about Chang Seon was normal. In addition, Changshin also asked Yeojun to act as usual. Just as Yeojun is about to leave, Chang Seon asks him to stop because Changshin wants to learn the skill Yeojun is using. After just a few moves, Chang Seon was able to learn skills that took Yeojun a year to master, which amazed Yeojun. Chang Seon knows that each Jigwei couple will produce a Jigwei egg every century, so he goes to Jigwei's nest and finds a Jigwei egg. Jigwei has 3 forms, but in truth, they are a gathering of spirits. Thus, they are spiritual beings without fixed physical bodies. Because their ancestors have taken the form of birds, they continue to do so, but they can change however much they need to according to their environment. It's also possible to redirect their nature in a good manner and increase their intellect past what is normal for them. Changshin hatched the egg by letting it absorb his flame. Then he went to the research center. At the research center, the manager was furious that the studies weren't recognized by Director O. Although this research plan was proposed by Director O and served as the project manager. The manager is also recruiting some skilled newcomers to train his tools in case he is betrayed by Director O. Chang Seon finally finds the gate of the research center and he breaks into it. Thanks to the skills he learned from Yeojun, Chang Seon easily broke through the guard outside the gates of the research center and entered quickly. Chang Seon used all his skills to break inside undetected. Suddenly he realized that everyone was moving fast. The engineers became panicked and screams were everywhere. An incident had happened and they were afraid they would become experiments. After searching for a while, Chang Seon also found the place where the illusion pearl was produced. The smell of poison in this place was very strong, and the poison of the flower was spreading throughout this room. Chang Seon stops in front of a locked room and has to open it with ID. But he uses Peter's key and manages to open the door, behind which is a horrible sight. The people at the research center used living people to create illusion pearls. They arrested many innocent people to carry out this evil research. Even the Constellations were disgusted by the crimes of the research center, and they scolded the White Tiger Clan's cruel research center. Then one of the righteous Constellations gave Chang Seon a hidden mission and promised to grant Chang Seon its powers. However, Chang Seon wanted to decline that mission, but first, he asked the tiger that has been trapped in hardships to become his protector. Chang Seon then proceeded on the hidden mission that the tiger that was trapped in hardships had given him so that he could become his disciple. After reaching an agreement with the tiger that was trapped in hardships, Chang Seon mentioned Minerva. In the end, Chang Seon accepted both Constellation's duties. Not to waste time, Chang Seon quickly activated the looting skill. The guards at the research center detected Chang Seon's presence, but before they could react, Chang Seon used Jigwee's flames and burned everything. The people in the research center started rioting as the fire created by Chang Seon was spreading further. They used ice magic remotely, but they still couldn't stop the flames. The manager was shocked after seeing the fire consuming the research center. The fire suddenly spread out to form an explosion that threw the manager away. Then he quickly asked the assistant the number of people alive and gathered them. Inside the research center, smoke and fire were everywhere, and the number of people injured and affected by the fire was extremely large. Thinking that the fire only stopped there, but suddenly, everyone in the research center was infected with poisonous fire. The screams of those destroyed by poisonous fire echoed everywhere. The manager finally appears and confronts Chang Seon directly. Will Chang Seon succeed in defeating the manager and receiving the power of the constellations? What if Chang Seon fails? Please predict the results in the comments section below. Don't forget to click the like and subscribe buttons to support your channel.